Excellent. Well, good afternoon. Some technical issues here, but we'll get started right away. And I'm super excited to welcome Rabbi Joshua Gruenberg from Chizuk Amuno here in Baltimore to this edition of Jmore Live. We are excited to spend the next 20, 30 minutes talking about just a host of things that are going on in Baltimore, in the world. And Rabbi Gruenberg, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I love schmoozing with you when we see each other. So to have this time together where it's just you and me kind of chatting back and forth, it's a nice treat.
Absolutely, absolutely. So happy Chanukah, which I think is a great way to start. So talk to me a little bit about Chanukah and what's different, unique this year. I mean, we're post-COVID. I know there were a bunch of fireworks in Pikesville in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
So for those people who didn't make that Chanukah celebration, tell us a little bit about what's going on with Chanukah from your perspective.
So it's interesting, right, Jonathan? I actually think, given the historical story of Chanukah, that I'm hearing a lot from people that one of the things on their mind this Chanukah is the proliferation of anti-Semitism, right? So without completely muting the joy of the holiday, it's an easy connection for people in this day and age. It seems like every time we turn on the news, read the paper, there's another instance of some sort of anti-Semitic event. And, you know, the backdrop of the story of what took place in Israel, Palestine all those years ago, and that, you know, the notion that Jews were persecuted for worshiping in their public spaces, I think that rings too close to home right now and scares us a little. And by the same token, Jonathan, right, the eternal message of the holiday of Chanukah, putting the miracle of the oil and the lights aside, the Maccabees were far from perfect, right? You're talking historically about one of the most fractured Jewish societies that you will ever see. And even though they weren't perfect, what they were able to do in restoring a little bit of joy and a little bit of holiness to our people is nothing short of amazing. And I think that from that, even if we begin in that place, Jonathan, of anti-Semitism and fear that I think many of us are steeped in right now, at least on Chanukah, we get this sort of loud reminder that we've overcome this before, right? Like, one of the things that marks our history more than anything is our resiliency, our ability to not just overcome the storm of the day, but actually to thrive in spite of the storm of the day. So I think especially this year, that's our resonant Chanukah message.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, it's, you know, Hanukkah is one of everyone's favorite holidays, and yet it's challenging being Jewish right now in America. There's just this wave of hate out there, of anti-Semitism, and it is such a shame. But let's go back for a second. So there was a big fireworks celebration. With two synagogues in Pikesville, your synagogue and Bethel, yes?
Yes. So tell
us about that.
We have this wonderful tradition, Jonathan, that on one of the first nights of Chanukah, Bethel and Chizuk come together for a Chanukah celebration. So first of all, if you don't live in Baltimore and you hear that there are 1,000+ family conservative congregations that back onto one, I remember the first time I heard that, Jonathan, I was like, what, are they crazy? How does that happen?
What an abnormality.
Yeah, it's a big abnormality. And yet here we are, these two conservative synagogues right next to one another. And we do this program together. And I will tell you that like deep at the heart of this ability to work together is the fact that the rabbis of the two synagogues love one another. We are good friends. We get along with one another. We love one another's presence in the community. And so this year we held it at Bethel. We had dinner. Most importantly, Jonathan, 613 came to perform. I mean, you would have thought the Beatles showed up, like literally, like they hold that sort of place in the imagination of a young Jewish child. And when they finished with a Bohemian Rhapsody take on Hanukkah. It's just
I
like,
love it.
and then followed by the fireworks. We had about 700 people there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What a wonderful way to begin Hanukkah, by celebrating community, by celebrating, not focusing on all the differences, just celebrating this wonderful Baltimore Jewish community. It was such a wonderful night.
So let me ask you this: if someone's watching, and you know, we have a wide variety of viewers, you know, most of them here in Baltimore, some of them around the country. You know, it's the power of the internet, of Facebook. Someone could be watching from around the world, and they're not Jewish, and they really don't know what Hanukkah is. If you had to sum it up in a very simple sentence or two, how would you, as a rabbi, define Hanukkah? What is Hanukkah? To someone who has no idea.
Right. So it's so interesting, right? Because the first thing you are so tempted to go to is the lights and the presents. And while the lights are important and all of those things, in some ways, that's kind of, we're borrowing from other cultures when we sort of hype up that part of the holiday. But I think the heart of the holiday is a holiday about religious freedom, right? And this notion that all people should have the freedom to worship in the way that they want, and nobody should be able to tell another person how they should worship, how they should practice. So while the miracle of the oil is this outer worldly miracle, and some people are willing to buy it and some people are not, and it's a wonderful way to celebrate the holiday, that enduring message of religious freedom will be relevant forever, right? That way Hanukkah will always have a message to share with us year after year. And you know, in that way, you know, with maybe the exception of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it may be the most, you know, relevant holiday in our Jewish tradition in perpetuity, even though it's not our most major holiday, Jonathan. That will always be a relevant message.
Right. No, very nice, very nice. So, you know, we opened by talking a little bit about the fact that here in Baltimore, there are these 2,000 family conservative synagogues that are back to back, which says to me the conservative movement in Baltimore is doing well. But talk about the role of the movement. I mean, you're obviously a graduate of JTS, the Jewish Theological Seminary. You know, the conservative movement in some synagogues and some towns across the country is not doing so well. But why does it work so well here in Baltimore and in other key places around the country where it is working? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny, Jonathan. I think about it a lot. So on some level, Baltimore is a little bit of an anomaly in terms of its Jewish community. However, one of the nice parts of conservative Judaism in Baltimore is that the conservative synagogues in Baltimore are unapologetically themselves. Bethel is unapologetically Bethel. That's not the same as Chizuk Amuno. Chizuk Amuno is unapologetically Chizuk Amuno, and quite frankly, Beth Am with Rabbi Berg is unapologetically Beth Am, and they all should be. I think institutionally, centrally in America, Jonathan, the conservative movement gets into a lot of trouble by worrying too much about what it's not and not defining itself for what it is. So we're not Orthodox. We're not that stringent. We're not that tied to a tradition that maybe at times seems passe. And we're not Reform. We don't believe in the idea that personal autonomy, that religion should be just doing what holds meaning for you. But we often institutionally define us by who we are not, as opposed to simply saying, this is who we are.
So who are you? Who is Chizuk Amuno today?
We believe very strongly in the idea of Jewish observance, right? Just because we may have a membership that doesn't believe as strongly, that doesn't mean that we don't believe it. We believe very strongly in our Torah and in our tradition and in our people's history. At the same time, we affirm the modern world in every way. So if there is something in our tradition that is just at odds with the modern world, we need to figure out a way to compromise. That's the brand of conservative Judaism. And so I think, and it comes out in different issues, but I think we need to be better at defining ourselves as who we are. The other,
no, go ahead. Please continue.
The other thing I will say is that I think that in the late 20th century, in the mid to late 20th century, all the movements got very centralized and very focused on big buildings in urban areas. And that's not necessarily where Jewish communities went. And so we're talking about this time now, I'm sure you've heard about it, Jonathan, where there aren't enough conservative rabbis for the synagogues that are out there. And I hear that, but I also think there's a systemic problem that maybe the synagogues are just not in the right geographic places anymore. They're too far from those places where young Jewish people are going to live. And I will say that the Orthodox movement has done an unbelievable job of seeking out those communities. So I think systemically that we have to understand, right, that we have to define ourselves by who we are. And we cannot, and I think this has been a problem too, we cannot expect just simply that people will come to us, right? That we just put a synagogue down, Jonathan, and they will just join the closest place. We need to be giving them really compelling reasons to connect with our community, and we have them. I don't for a second believe that we don't have these compelling reasons at our arsenal. Where we're not succeeding is transmitting that to the masses.
You know, it's interesting you talk about compelling reasons. So I was at your synagogue for a friend's daughter's bat mitzvah in May. And I remember, sadly, it was right after another horrific shooting here in America. And I remember you speaking from the heart passionately. You were angry and you were you were pissed off. You're like, enough is enough. And you offered both a prayer, you offered words of comfort, but it was like so authentic what you said. And I don't remember the exact words. This was May, but just in 3-4 minutes. And I said, that's what people, I believe, want when they come to synagogue today. They want an authentic dialogue with their clergy. They want to emotionally be challenged. They want to find a safe, comfortable place. But I just loved how you used words to mourn those who had perished the week before, and yet you demanded accountability. And the sad thing is, I don't even remember how many shootings we've had since then. Right?
I mean, but I think you're right. I think people want authenticity, Jonathan. I also think they want to not have to check their identity at the door when they walk into synagogue, right? Like they don't want to walk into synagogue and hear something that is at odds with their persona outside of the synagogue, because then they'll leave and find a Jewish community. Either they'll find a Jewish community that speaks to them, or they won't find a Jewish community, and that's tragic.
Yeah. So what you're saying is all are welcome. Chizuk Amuno. You walk in that door and you want everyone to feel welcome.
Right. I mean, we need to be able to create a community where the person who never would drive on Shabbat feels welcome, and the person who has no idea even why you wouldn't be allowed to drive on Shabbat feels welcome. That's the reality of our Jewish community. And I also think, Jonathan, that I think that the non-Orthodox American Jewish community is closer together than it's ever been.
The non-Orthodox Jewish community.
Right.
Okay, I had to think about that for a minute. Okay.
Now, Pikesville might be a little bit of an anomaly in this. But I don't think increasingly there's large gaps between the people that occupy the pews at conservative synagogues, Reform synagogues, and even in some occasions, modern Orthodox synagogues. And my sense is of all of those people that their Judaism has to fit into the rest of their worldview. It can't be at odds with their worldview, because I'm not so sure that ancient tradition or ancient documents are going to win out in that case.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So let's talk about the history of your synagogue. 150 years old, iconic rabbis and chazans and lay leaders. The late Joel Zaman, may his memory be for a blessing, who was a roommate in the seminary of my late father. May his memory be for a blessing. And Joel Zaman was just this nationally known, internationally known rabbi, and you're following the footsteps of that, this amazing legacy. So I mean, what's new for the next 150 years at your synagogue? And may you be here for 150 more years.
Right. It's such a great question. And I should also in this time mention Rabbi Goldman, who preceded Rabbi Zaman, who was like known in this community for being arrested on street corners, right, protesting segregation of Black people, right? So and I bring that up not to tell, well, one, to honor Rabbi Goldman, Zichrono Livracha, but also it's like between Rabbi Goldman and Rabbi Zaman, like you are talking historically, Michael, Jonathan, about these incredible rabbis who just so fundamentally moved their communities. And it's interesting. I feel like that is one of my greatest responsibilities and greatest opportunities to kind of help Chizuk Amuno into that next generation of American Judaism, which I think was sort of happening, Jonathan. And then I think on some level, the pandemic really, was like a catalyst. I mean, just in terms of online profiles and right. I mean, I have people that come to now some of our Zoom adult ed classes from both of my previous synagogues. And then
they must like you. That's a good sign.
Right. A student that lives in Arizona so I think that the pandemic has largely changed things, but I also really believe that even the next 25 years at Chizuk Amuno are about becoming the synagogue that our children are going to need for their Jewish community in the next.
Like so
the perfect example that I can give to you about that is, Jonathan, sustainability, right? Yep. Synagogues, especially big ones, have big footprints. Big synagogues also have the finances and the ability to really invest in sustainability, whether it's solar panels, EV charging stations, gardens, all kinds of things.
Smart.
And that, right, the next generation is looking to us for that. They want to know that we're cognizant of the fact that they're inheriting the earth that we're going to leave them. In a lot of ways, we are the Jewish communities that our parents and grandparents wanted us to be. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But you could also make the case, just in world history, the last 30 years may have fundamentally been some of just from an internet age to a right, from a non-internet age to an internet age. And one of the great changes. And so the world has changed dramatically. And religion needs to also, not eschewing our tradition and the things that were sort of core parts of us, Shabbat and some of these things, but the way we look out into the world has really got to dramatically change. And then I think, the way we run things has to dramatically change. We are, and it sounds sort of cold, but synagogues are customer service based entities.
You are, right? Right. Yeah.
And while customer satisfaction may not be the name of the game, meaningful engagement and meaningful experience is, and there's just no way we can continue to give people that same meaningful experience. Joel Zaman of blessed memory once said to me, he said, Josh, I'm so glad you're the rabbi right now, because if I was, what I did 20 years ago never would have held or worked. So that was one of the best things, Jonathan, that he ever said to me.
What a lovely comment. Yeah,
Right?
he
Because I
was
think
such a
it was,
match.
yeah, it was licensed to say, go do you and change what we look at. And, because we have, as because we have the schools here, our
Right.
kids are constantly pushing us.
Which is a great thing, right?
A wonderful thing. So we have this young woman. She's now a 9th grade student at Park School.
Okay.
Her name is Maya Levine.
Okay.
Maya Levine was bugging us that during carpool line, everybody idles their car.
Oh, fair
So
point.
eventually, right? to both affirm her voice and to get her to stop bugging us, we put up non-idling signs, Jonathan, right?
Wow.
And so we have to be those communities that those kids are going to want to invest in 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And if we don't start now, what they see in 10, 15 years is they're not going to be like, oh my God, I need to engage and connect with this. They're going to find something else.
So, you talk about investment. So my understanding is you all are launching a camp, right? It's a big deal.
We are.
Building a swimming pool, is that right?
Correct, we are.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, what's the reason behind that? Is that to broaden the engagement, to really build this true community campus? Talk to us a little bit about why CA camps?
So there's a couple of reasons, but first and foremost, we want our families to have the opportunity to be with us the whole year, right? You can send your kid here, you send your kid for the summer. And to me, there's a lot of benefits, but the biggest benefit is that these children become so comfortable and used to a Jewish community campus, to a synagogue campus. They love being at synagogue. They love, even if 80% of the time that they're here, they're running around the building like a Vildachaya. They're still running around the synagogue, and they're still engaging Jewishly and getting that. So to be able to have them in our building and engage with them throughout the year is just an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
I also think for us at Chizuk Amuno, we really pride ourselves on a reputation as being a synagogue that really engages in deep learning and deep Jewish content.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yep, you have that reputation.
And to be able to, now, this camp is going to be 90%, 95% fun. But also, if you read every population study about the Jewish community, Jewish summer experiences are so vital to creating a long-lasting identity. Yep. So one, we see this a little bit as the beginning of that. Two, it is our hope that our day camp will feed into any of the Jewish summer camps in the area, Jonathan, that this is still the value of Jewish camping in our kids from a really early age, and that will continue with them, because you just see the statistics of those kids that get Jewish summer camp. And then, for our teens who we want to engage and our different communities that we want to engage, the pool is just another fun way to engage one another. And, we always have grade level parties for the kids at the beginning of the year. So it's amazing to be able to host that here for kids, and kids' birthday parties and whatever it is. So it's a really exciting new venture for us.
Yeah. So shul and a pool coming soon.
Yes, right? The shul with a pool.
So when's the pool going to be ready? By summer?
The pool will be ready by summer. I think groundbreaking happens in the next month, assuming the ground doesn't freeze, and then it will be ready for the summer. We actually are putting the pool in a place where we normally have the Schechter kids dig for oil. But since after a couple years they haven't found anything, so
how
we're going to let
funny!
The pool go.
Oh, I like it. So let's talk about you and what it's like being a rabbi during these times. So I'm always curious, when did you decide you wanted to become a rabbi? Like how old were you, and why did it happen?
So it's such a great question. So After I graduated college, I was about to take a job, and you'll just laugh at what I was going to do, Jonathan, because I don't even think this job exists anymore. Selling advertising space for radio stations, right? Like
no, there are people who still do that. They do.
So
they
still
do.
a little bit of that. About a week before I was supposed to start the job, I decided I don't want to do this. None of this job. They sent us the materials of what we would be doing. None of this job sounds good to me. So at that point, it was like August after I graduated college. And it happened to be that the Solomon Schechter that I went to growing up was looking for an assistant first grade Hebrew teacher and an assistant to their director of Jewish life.
And where did you grow up, Mass?
In Westchester County, New York.
Okay.
So Solomon Schechter of Westchester hired me at 22 years old.
Wow, excellent.
To be an assistant first grade Hebrew teacher and to help with teaching Torah reading and prayers and that kind of thing.
And it must have worked out. You must have done a good job.
So while I was there, I had this mentor, this rabbi, her name is Pamela Gottfried, and we would talk about what I was going to do, and I would describe to her what I like, and she'd say, you really should think about being a rabbi. And I'd say, no, I don't want to be a rabbi. Like, I don't want to be a rabbi. So then, after having a discussion with her, she said, you should go to a career counselor. So I went to a career counselor, Jonathan. I took one of these tests.
Yes.
And the guy is sitting with me afterwards, like, have you ever thought about being a priest? Because he didn't know that I was Jewish.
Oh, how funny.
So like,
second person who says that to you.
It's a second person. So I started rabbinical school. I applied to rabbinical, started. And the truth is, when I started rabbinical school, I was still a little bit ambivalent about it. And then at the beginning of my second year of rabbinical school, I did a high holiday pulpit at the University of Georgia.
Oh, fun.
Which was tremendous fun. But I want to share two moments with you about that.
Please.
One serious, one funny. So the serious one is about 5 minutes before Yizkor, the prayer, where we remember people that have died, was about to start. I remember, Jonathan, that in all of my preparation for everything that I was doing, I forgot that I had never been in the service for Yizkor before.
Because you always left, right?
My parents always, my grandmother, my grandmother probably spit on our forehead as we were leaving for Yizkor.
Can I just ask, as an aside, does it bother you as a rabbi when people get up and leave during Yizkor?
Nope.
Okay.
No, because
you just didn't do it.
For some people, Jonathan, that is such a strong feeling of the classic evil eye.
Yeah.
So it dawns on me that I am literally going to be leading Yizkor, and I've never seen it before.
Wow.
I assumed at the time, and I still do, that I did a terrible job with it. I fumbled through it. I gave a sermon.
Well, you probably did a good job.
2 weeks after, I got this letter from a professor at University of Georgia. She sent it to the dean of the rabbinical school too, about how much comfort I had brought her.
Wow, see? Look at you.
And I started to realize, like, I love this. I'm good at this. Like, if everybody, you can only lead a camel to water. So the funny story, Jonathan, is, so I'm leaving after Yom Kippur, and I'm walking through the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport.
Small little place.
Right. I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt and a baseball hat, and I'm carrying my shofar.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to see the shofar. Oh, wow.
Shofar, right? It's
nice
a really big one. So imagine me in jeans and a t-shirt carrying this shofar.
People looking at you like, what's this guy holding?
I walk by this man who clearly, I'm assuming, Jonathan, wasn't Jewish. He looked at my shofar with a straight face and said to me, "Nice kill."
Good Lord.
I made the decision, Jonathan, that the best I made the decision that the best thing for me to do in that moment was to thank him and keep going and get to my gate.
Yeah, wow, that's quite a story. Well, you know what? It's clear the Jewish people are better off that you decided not to go into advertising.
Thank you.
You went to Hebrew school, you helped kids with Torah, and then you went to rabbinical school. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So you have a family. What do your kids think of dad being the rabbi? You know?
Well, so it's so interesting that you asked that, Jonathan. So first of all, when they were students at Krieger Schechter, or wherever they're in the synagogue, they love that their dad is the rabbi. They always have this big, spacious office to hang out with their friends in.
But, or however.
Right. I would say there are times where it's probably a little bit embarrassing to have your father as the rabbi. Recently, Jonathan, you'll love this one. I was invited by Beth Tefillah High School to speak to the senior class about conservative Judaism.
Oh, very nice. Good for you.
My son is a senior at Beth Tefillah High School.
Okay. Okay.
So he gave me very strict rules under which, Jonathan, I was allowed to go there and speak. I wasn't allowed to interact directly with him unless he did something.
Of course
I
not.
wasn't allowed to make fun of his friends who spend copious amounts of time at my house.
Of course, and you know them well.
Right. The only thing I was allowed to do was to make fun of one of his friends who I had beaten the previous week in fantasy football. I was allowed to do. That's it.
That's funny. That's great. So look, there are wonderful moments being a rabbi, and there are really, really tough moments. How do you get through the tough moments and deal with it without them pulling you down? I mean, people are coming to you with tough stories, horrific experiences. They're confiding in you. They're burdening their souls on you. How do you're an incredibly optimistic human being, which I love about you. I think we hopefully share that trait. But how do you not let it get you down?
Yeah.
When times are hard, because every day is not. Some days are harder than others being a rabbi, right?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to say to that, Jonathan, is you touched on something that I think is the most important thing, which is authenticity.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think sometimes it's okay to let people know that you're down. They're down. And if they get that sense that you're never down, it's like, wait a second, that's not real to me. I think authenticity is really, really important. And authenticity includes empathy and even feeling these things, right? So if you're dealing with a really hard situation and you're trying while you're dealing with that hard situation to not feel it, you're spending a lot of energy doing something that's not realistic. So I think you actually do have to let yourselves feel these things and be human. I think we also have to seek out the experiences that elevate us, that lift us up. The experiences that are challenging and are sad and are difficult, that they'll find you. But you also have to be able to seek out those experiences that elevate you, whether they are public rabbinic experiences or private. Right? Like personal experiences. Let me say it this way, Jonathan. I think you'll like this. I for a while, served on a rabbinical assembly committee. I ran a rabbinical assembly committee mentoring new rabbis. Oh,
good for you.
And so the three things I would say to rabbis that they needed to do, like, here are my big three that you need to know going in. One is you have to find something that you enjoy doing outside of your job, right?
Yes.
For me, at the beginning of my career, it was playing basketball. Now my ankles don't cooperate too much with that, so I play golf poorly. But you need something outside that can give you joy, that can give you some peace, because if you're just living in the role, it's gonna get you at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second thing I tell them is find a good therapist, somebody you can talk to, right? Because
good advice, good counsel.
Not the least of which, Jonathan, is you spend so much time being there for others. You need somebody who's gonna
be there for you.
Yeah. And then the third thing that I tell them, and this is so important, is to know that what you say matters, that people are really listening to you and they want to hear what you have to say. And I think that's incredibly helpful in knowing that what you do makes a real difference. And
Yeah.
so that also helps elevate you out of those challenging moments, because they're hard, and you see some really difficult things that are a reminder that that's an inescapable part of life, regardless of what we do.
Yeah, no, great words of wisdom to new rabbis. So in our final few moments here, as we're wrapping down, so you're up on the bima, you're praying to God. What are you praying for? What are you asking for? If we could go inside your soul for a minute, what is the rabbi? I mean, you're reading the liturgy.
Yep.
You're praying in Hebrew, but what are you really asking for on a daily basis for yourself, your congregation, our community?
So that's such a one. I love that question. So for me, Jonathan, for me personally, I am asking for strength as my son goes to college.
There you go.
Emotionally destroyed by it. He is
so you're gonna cry. You're gonna cry.
Oh my God, I'm gonna start crying probably 2 weeks before, Jonathan. He is literally my best friend. I watch sports with him. We go to stuff and he has to go away. I'm not keeping him. This is not like some helicopter, but
funny. So you're asking for strength.
That's where my emotional head is. You know what? It's so interesting when I pray for the community at this point. Obviously, health and all of this sort of colloquial normative things, but really, I pray that we can really get back a sense of civil discourse. There are just certain topics, Jonathan, that have become so heated in the Jewish community, and our history, deep history and legacy of civil discourse, of two rabbis arguing tooth and nail and then walking away arm in arm, knowing that they did it for the betterment of the community. That's deep within our legacy, and we've lost that. I mean, you can't have a conversation about Israel in the Jewish community without 15 people immediately, jumping off the deep end. So, and then, for the world, I just pray that the world we give the next generation is savable, right? That somehow that next generation is going to have the same opportunities that we've squandered in large measure, that they will have to do better with. Because if not, then, well, let's just say that's what I pray for, and not
Lovely. Well, it's clear that if anyone is looking for a wonderful rabbi, a great shul here in Baltimore, Chizuk Amuno and Rabbi Joshua Gruenberg are the place to be and the rabbi to be with. So, I love the conversation. What a fun afternoon.
Yeah, we'll do it again, Jonathan. I enjoy this. This is one of my joys of Baltimore.
Absolutely. And thank you. And, enjoy the next few nights of Hanukkah, lighting the menorah with your family, with the community. And, it is always fun. I just enjoy sitting there watching the candles burn, and it's so peaceful and tranquil. And it's nice to just kind of shut the world out for a few minutes and watch the candles. All right. Thank you so much. Be well.
Always a pleasure, sir. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. And to our viewers, tune in early 2023 for our next rabbinic conversation. Stay tuned. Be well. Bye-bye.